Welcome to Frame by Frame.
Hi.
Why do you sound so shy, Andy?
I don't know. I hate starting these things.
You hate starting these podcasts,
Yeah.
don't you? That's why if you had a snappy catchphrase like mine, then you'd feel okay. Do you want to try mine? Just to kind of ease you in.
The clock is running.
You talking to me?
Did you have a brain tumor for breakfast?
Then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me?
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like a clown.
I'm Peter Venkman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
First rule of fight club is do not talk about life.
Yeah, baby.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Does that feel better?
It does actually. I feel a little bit better.
Okay. So,
Somehow I just feel like I wish you didn't have all this technology around me.
really?
You know, it'd be easier to just converse with my fellow people if it was in a sort of like, I don't know, like medieval times.
It's very hard to do podcasts in medieval times, but do you know what?
We could do brass rubs.
Yeah. We could totally do. That sounds wrong and illegal, but that's okay.
Well, obviously we can't go back to medieval times, but perhaps we could, like, get in a spaceship and pretend we're scientists and go off to a planet that perhaps might be, like...
Stuck in the perpetual Middle Ages.
Yeah, it can't quite push into the Renaissance. I wonder...
What you're saying is that we should be talking about... what we're going to be talking about today,
It's hard
Andy?
to be a god.
No, it's not called that. It's called Trudnobiot Bodgum.
Yeah, but translated, I think that means it's hard to be a god.
Это не Земля, это другая планета. Такая же, как Земля, но не догнавшая ее лет на 800.
There we go. So Hard to Be a God is a Russian film.
Yeah, Russian film. It's 3 hours long. It's black and white. It's full of striking images and... Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Striking images. But what do you say by striking images? What do you mean by that?
Images that sort of stay with you, I guess.
Yeah.
Did with me, anyway. And
Yeah.
there's so much in every shot. And...
It's thick. It's thick.
Yeah.
Dense.
So it was directed by Alexei German. I'm sticking with that.
Alexei German, I'm going to say.
No, all right.
No. German. No, I don't know. German.
So the thing with this film,
Really,
it took
a
him...
Russian name.
Yeah, it took him 6 years to make it. So it's already sort of infamous.
From
before
2000 to 2006, though, that's when he actually made the film.
Yeah, before that it was...
The rest of it was sound editing, apparently. He was a stickler for sound editing.
Right.
And he couldn't get it right.
Well, the sad thing is, while he was editing the film, he
Yeah.
tragically died, and his wife and his son had to complete the film.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a labour of love for him. I mean, it's adapted from an old Russian, 1964 Russian novel.
Yeah.
Of the same name. Naturally, he had his own vision for this, and it was a very unique vision for it. He had a very stylized way of putting this book onto film. There are other versions of this book that have actually been put out there in shorter versions
Right.
of the film, in colour, and they run on a kind of a typical narrative story. You see characters in the distance talking,
Right.
and you cut to what they're looking at. And it's what you would expect from a normal film, a normal telling of any story or book. And there's sci-fi elements in that. There's strong sci-fi elements in that film.
Yeah.
This one, however, is straight away you're into the narrative of this guy who says he's an astronaut.
Yeah.
And he is visiting a planet that is living in a perpetual Middle Ages.
Yeah.
but there is nothing outside of the world that we're actually looking at. There's nothing that suggests beyond science fiction.
Yeah, you saw it. So the camera is this person, isn't it?
That's it. The camera
is the person. So the camera is the only bit of technology that.
I'd say the camera is God. I mean, if we're talking about an omniscient observer, as we are observing this film, that cameraman doesn't get harmed, doesn't get accosted, doesn't get raped, everything is fine. He's able to freely go around this story without any harm. So there is a certain godliness about that, which I think is probably where he got that idea from. But the other scientist who we do see a lot of, the one who's in front of the camera,
he sort of took on a kind of deity form himself, whether he's proclaimed that he is a god himself, or everyone has took him as being a god.
Yeah, I think there was mixed feelings.
Yeah.
I got it as mixed feelings because a lot of people were kind of sitting on the fence, quite literally, just sitting on a fence, looking over and just, some were disgusted with him, and some were kind of like, most of them were kind of fascinated by him and wanted to dance around.
The only bit of dialogue that really made any sense was at the very beginning when the overdub god, shall we say, the other scientist who's behind the camera, is saying that, like, I've come to this planet that is just like Earth, but like 800 years prior. And that little speech all makes perfect sense. And I actually sort of fell in love with this shot where it was just on the stream and very slowly just sort of panned up, and then you just saw this village with people working and doing their own thing. And I love that image.
It is authentic.
Yeah,
it feels
I thought, wow, that's been made. You know what I mean? Someone's made that, but then 10 minutes into it, someone takes a shit out of the top of a window and two peasants rub it into their own faces, and I was like, okay.
As if it's really happening in front of you. And,
I mean,
it does have an extraordinary sense of raw, real. It doesn't pretend to be anything but a film about two scientists who are on a planet. It's everybody's really into the role. Everybody's into the era. There's no illusions here. It's really happening. They went that far to make everything that real. The only difficulty is because it's black and white, you don't know the difference between filth and custard. But
part of me thought, while watching this, if the film was in colour, I don't think I've been able to stomach it.
That's what I'm thinking, because all you'd see what's blood, you'd see where the blood begins and the shit ends.
It immediately makes me think of that part in Kill Bill where they had to make it black and white when she fights all those guys because it was so gory. They made it black and white so you could, obviously
they passed the censors.
People think people can stomach that now. It's in black and white.
But that was like 2000, really. I don't think they had much to worry about because around the corner, all the goriest slasher films and Saw films were just going to happen. So maybe they were a little bit too worried.
I doubt Tarantino does anything that doesn't want to do. So
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if I should do this. I know. I'm going to hold back. I'm really going to hold back.
Woody Allen.
Hey, no.
They're the same person.
But they are fast talking directors. Martin Scorsese, like that. But in this, it is. Yeah.
So everything is covered in mud and dirt and grime, and you feel that it's just awful existence, and everyone stinks, and it's.
When you watch a what are the cards called? A Hallmark movie, Christmas movie. Yeah. And you see the two squeaky clean characters walking down the street, and they walk over the snow, which is actually fabric. And it gets caught on the heel, and you can see it gets picked up, and you can tell, oh, that's a set. You never, for 1 second, feel as though you're in a kind of a Hallmark movie.
No.
You feel everything is. Nothing's flappy. Nothing's light. Everything's heavy. When they're carrying big structures, they are really carrying big structures. Nothing looks like it's been movie made. It looks like it's just there.
And that's, to me, what I think the film's about. It's about observing things, and by being an observer of something, do you somehow change? Like if we went to a tribe in the Amazon,
Absolutely.
and no one's ever been there before, by you going observing them, you change that tribe.
That's it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
There's
that's
an
what
influence.
I think that's what the film's about.
It's about the seeds of influence.
Yeah.
And how that can... I mean, you could say that maybe that this is actually the influence that they need to actually change the course of their history. This is how it always starts with just one little thing. This could also be the start of a new Messiah. This is probably how gods are created. This is how Jesus was an astronaut, kind of a storyline.
Yeah.
And then it spreads and spreads, and it becomes this whole thing. But like we say, we're almost as if we're only just seeing a glimpse of the seeds being planted in the change of this entire culture on this planet. It's very bizarre, though. It's very bizarre to a project, a very ambitious project. You have to be. You have to be so committed to spend every day doing the same dirty shoot. For 6 years shooting this, you are...
And what's amazing, if it took him 6 years to shoot it, all the main characters in it look the same. No one seems to have changed in 6 years.
You're right. But plus, really, in that kind of a circumstance, even if one had lost an ear and or one had shaved his beard, just paint it over with a bit of shit or blood. Something's bound to have happened in that scene, whereas a few seconds later somebody's thrown something at them and they're covered in stuff. You wouldn't even notice if they've aged, even if it was...
Yeah,
even if it was like... No, it's not like Boyhood, where there's literally a child growing up to be a man. 6 years in an adult's life isn't that much of a...
I suppose so, yeah. I suppose you're right.
But not that I was trying to make an argument.
Oh no, I know, yeah, but so I suppose just to keep it
looking authentic.
Looking authentic, it looks like it lasted about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
we were observing.
The lighting was always the same.
Yeah, and it's a hard watch, man.
It is a hard watch. I think I had more concentration when they went inside a building because things got a little bit more. The saturation of the image, where what is true black or what is true white. Yeah. They rarely touched upon true black or true white as a colour palette. Everything was kind of within, I hate to say it, but shades of grey. Right. It's a very muted, low saturation palette.
Yeah.
But when you go inside, they kind of ramp it up a little bit, and you can tell where the darkness is around the edges, and the candles are purer and lighter, and clothing you can actually see because they've all had a wash. But everything is just so grey in the outside, and I find it very hard to concentrate on what was really going on. And I think that's the thing about this it's quite an endurance test to actually stay the course for the whole 3 hours.
Did you watch it straight without a break?
Did I? Yes.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
But it was more because this is the first movie I've ever tweeted whilst watching a film. I needed to tweet whilst watching this film so that I could stay with it.
Because you were tweeting me, and I was out on a hike, and I was sort of like, watch the film, stop tweeting me. So I stopped tweeting you because I thought you need to be in it. You can't miss a thing.
But if I did that, I would have just passively just lost it, and I don't know. I just couldn't stay. I mean, there was a few moments where I did just drift away because I just wasn't invested in what I was looking at. I found it very hard to concentrate.
Yeah, I think because all the no dialogue makes sense. So one person will say something to someone, and then what they reply back bears no resemblance to what they've just been asked.
Did you buy dog treats for the dog that you're looking after?
Blue mailboxes really make me feel strange.
Oh my gosh, I think I need to light that candle.
Do you like that kind of music?
I'm going to scratch myself.
Exactly, you know what I mean? That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah,
the last
not
dialogue in the film,
yeah.
I memorised it, and now I'm going to ruin it because I've just put myself on it. It is, they're all walking off and they're sort of whistling that song, aren't they? And then you have it's like a farmer with his son seems to walk into shot.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you like this song? And then the son's like, I don't know because it makes me feel sick. And then the guy replies, yes. And that's the last dialogue in the film. I was like, what?
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
right.
it's Lynchian. But
almost like reverse. It's like a reverse conversation.
Yeah, I
Like,
suppose so,
like
yeah.
you could, like, yes was supposed to be the first thing they said, and it's kind of, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But maybe that's just they're trying to make it look the same as our Middle Ages, our Dark Ages, but at the same time, probably the language is different. Maybe conversation. Maybe they thought that deeply about the whole conversation structure that not everybody on this planet says what they actually want to say or answers what they want to do in their immediate time. But to me, I kind of didn't feel invested simply because they were leaning towards something that could have been construed as being Earth history.
Yeah.
It could have just been a slice out of the book of history in our past. This could have just been Soviet Russia back in the 1500s, for all I knew. The only thing that separated that was the fact that they had a conversation at the beginning about being astronauts.
Yeah.
But the nomenclature has nothing to do with being on a different planet. To me, it kind of felt as though I wanted them to do something that was alien to Earth and distinguish themselves a little bit different. Still be that type of culture,
right,
but do something slightly different. Maybe if they were telepathic or something, or if they had the ability to jump, if the gravity was different, or something that put it in the genre of science fiction rather than just assumed science fiction.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my only argument about the film, is that it's not really science fiction.
No, it's not. People have said that, they've argued that you have to make it, say it's sci-fi because they say they're astronauts. I don't really think you have to, because there's no sci-fi elements.
It's... I think I had it in my head the other day what the genre was, and it's kind of like alternate reality, and that's okay. I can play with that idea of alternate reality.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean it's Earth reality. It's just an alternate reality, like Star Wars is an alternate reality.
Yeah,
but with strong science fiction conventions. Maybe.
Yeah, but then I suppose in one respect you can argue that every film, everything is set in space.
No, yeah, because we're all on this planet.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice. It's a sci-fi book because technically it's based in space because everything is. That's
where we start to go a little bit quasi, because it's it's like Pride and Prejudice. But it would be science fiction if Elizabeth Bennet told Darcy, "I'm not really human. I'm actually an alien. I'm here to observe you. Carry on."
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is just her being Elizabeth Bennet, but because in the back of our minds we're thinking, oh, she's actually an alien, that makes the whole Pride and Prejudice a sci-fi.
I suppose so, yeah, it does. But then everything's sci-fi because everything's set in space.
Yeah. Okay, everything's sci-fi, everything's science fiction. But then, yeah, even action films. I mean, even Mission Impossible. If you look at those movies, the action is impossible. The action things that they did in Speed, the film, in Die Hard, the amount of times that John McClane should have died. It's science fiction, man.
Absolutely.
They should have died. And so, yeah, I mean, the only thing that distinguishes us, I mean, we had this discussion about what was science fiction a while ago, in a few episodes ago, but the only distinction is that for something to be considered science fiction, it has to be something that is not conceivable in our current reality. We base it more on technology, on that vision, so that there are edges that are blurred, and I think this is just one of those that is far at the edge of the blurred reality of what a genre is for science fiction. Right on the edge.
What? Right, 'cause I think the film's about observing.
It is about observing.
That's what I think it's about, but narratively, it isn't really about anything, is it?
There's no plot. Well, if you actually read the plot... I actually read the plot afterwards to find out what was going on, and apparently they were going to find the other scientists or something, and they met with a group of people, and they turned out to be a little bit Zionist and a bit odd and unusual and religious, and then they went there and they did this, and this person killed him, and I was like, did all this happen, or was it just simply it happened, and it was like you're either there or you're not. You're observing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that you see in the plot actually happened in front of you. Yeah,
absolutely. You're taking that as
one point of view.
And it's sort of like you have to know that before you're into the film, because they don't really explain that much in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly. So you don't know if
So as you go into the cinema to watch it, they have to give you a pamphlet of this is what happened before, and then this is what happens for the 3 hours afterwards, and then blah blah blah.
These are the things that happen off screen that are very important to the plot, but you're not going to see them.
Yeah, and if you don't see those things, nothing can make sense.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's going to make sense anyway.
But then I think imagine if we were the two scientists, okay?
Yeah.
We got our rocket.
The moment you said that, we're on a scientist, I sniffed my finger.
Imagine you're a scientist.
Because what's that all about? Sticking his hand in shitty little holes and smelling his fingers all the time, and
it's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that what scientists do? No.
You stick your finger in some like arsenic. And
I mean, there's one scene near the beginning where they basically uproot and take apart a toilet, right? It's a privy.
Yeah.
And he lifts up the circle, and you can see and he laughs.
He puts his head in it and laughs, doesn't he? And there's shit all around it.
And it's like, as soon as I started watching this, I thought, I'm not going to enjoy this movie.
No.
I'm not going to enjoy this movie because I don't know why he's doing that. But okay, we're two scientists. Okay.
Okay.
Stop sniffing your fingers. We're two scientists. So we're two scientists.
Two scientists. Go on.
We're two scientists. You and me. We go to this other planet.
Yeah.
You sniff your fingers. And okay, so we arrive and we're kind of surrounded by technology. First of all, we're going to hide away all the technology. Okay, job number one. We've then got to blend in with the people.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't speak our language, or shouldn't speak our own language, unless we've actually had the chance to actually observe them before. We know the language and we're talking Russian. Okay, for example.
Okay.
So we get there, we learn the language, and we're treated as gods because we seem to be acting slightly different to them. We're not blending in as well as we should be.
Maybe it's like that Holy Grail quote where he says like, "Oh look, there goes a king." You go, "Well, how do you know he's a king? He was the only one who hasn't got shit all over him."
Ah, very clever. Very good. And a good link to the next movie we're going to talk about very shortly. But yeah, you're right. But the thing is, we don't see an event from where these characters originate. We see them as if they have completely gotten rid of any creature comfort. They've literally they're living the life on this planet. They're mixing with them, and yet they are regarded as being higher beings or despicable beings, depending on who's for or against them. And yet they just carry on. What they're able to just walk through towns and cities without that much trouble. Yeah, everybody.
Well, the other guy gets quite a lot of trouble. He has to kill quite a few people, doesn't he? The one that we see in front of the camera.
But they seem to be able to survive quite well, considering that they're still scientists, fish out of water. They're not going to be. Are they military trained scientists? I mean, we can only assume that these two people have some sort of an omnipotent quality.
But then
a bubble surrounding them, because they don't. I mean, I'm sure we would have been killed. I mean, if it was you and me, we probably would have been killed off pretty quickly.
Yeah, quite possibly.
It'd be like the 60s for you. except without Janis Joplin sitting like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just don't. I kind of find it hard to kind of put the scientist in this movie. I can put the observer. I can put the observer and the duck-blind observer in there, but I want to see the event of that. I really do. I don't want to just see people who are assumed to be. I think it bothers me that much.
I don't think this is a film that you can be taken literal.
No. Okay.
It's got really no narrative.
Yes. So you're saying I need to let go of the scientists?
I think you have to, because we see no science in it. We see observing.
We're observing.
Which, like we've said, I think that's primarily what the film's about. And it's all about the visuals.
Yeah.
It's all about these incredible sets that have been built and made. And
So maybe we're talking more about the fact that we were talking more production value than actual plot narrative.
I'd like to read the book and see what I can get from the book.
There is actually the audiobook.
Yeah.
It's on...
Is it in Russian?
It's in Russian.
Yay!
Here's a snippet. Wow.
That sounds pretty good. Interesting. Yeah.
And in fact, it's very hard to actually put any snippet, because I know we normally laid in these episodes with parts from the movie.
Yeah.
And everything I'm going to be putting in here is going to be Russian.
Yes.
So...
What we should be doing is drinking vodka right now, shouldn't we?
We should be. I mean, we actually didn't think ahead and actually...
Got drunk.
Got drunk.
It means just to talk about this film.
But okay, let's talk about what we saw in the movie. I mean, there's everything that you come to expect from the kind of era. You kind of, and more. I mean, there's people being hung. There's people being.
Okay, right. So the main guy in it, we see a lot of, he's sort of omnipotent, and impotent at the same time, isn't he?
Is that why he never gets his end away?
Well, doesn't he try with that girl? There's a girl who sort of feels him and goes, "Oh my god, I'm glad you've got one," or something, and then she takes a chastity belt off. Yeah, and they try, and he sort of just falls off her, and she's screaming at him because she won't do it, and he just walks away. He looks quite drunk at the time, but you can never tell when he's drunk or when he's sober.
Because she seems to follow them in the narrative for quite a while.
Because she comes back about an hour later, doesn't she?
But then she dies.
Yeah.
But the event of her dying is actually all seen, is not seen.
No, it just... You go into a room, don't you, and she's dead. Everyone's been... They're talking,
and they're laughing, and she's kind of like prodding... It's something to do with a brush or a stick or something. And she's laughing, and he's just talking and talking and talking. We move away from her, and then we kind of do this pan down, and we go across, and then she's got this blade or something in her head, and she's actually dead. But we never hear anything off camera.
But then
we never see anything
that trigger a bit of a fight? Hasn't she been attacked? And that triggers a bit of a kick-off.
But nothing actually is seen, so you don't... So you're more confused. I was more confused about that, because I thought, well, hang on. What's happened there? I didn't actually see the actual fight start because I was crying.
I kind of early on decided not to try and find any narrative in this.
Don't find it an hour.
You know what I mean? And just let it wash over you and just sort of...
You don't have an obsessive compulsive disorder, do you?
I do, but not for that.
You don't have a neurosis for a plot and storyline. You can let it go.
I can let it go, yeah. And can you with Mad Max. Don't give me that. But yeah, alright, it's all about visuals. Things that stuck with me were those awful contraptions that they used to kill whores.
Oh god, yeah.
Disgusting things. To people who might listen to this who've not seen it, it's this like sort of a wooden structure with this huge shaft on it, which obviously resembles to look like a penis, but it's massive. It's like that big. That's good for radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that big. I've got my arms quite wide.
Yeah. Imagine the bunny rabbit in Guess How Much I Love You, and that's how...
I actually thought if we see that being used, I'm switching this off. I'm not interested. I'm sick of seeing how bad women get treated on film. I don't need it anymore. But you never get to see it, but the implication being that they strap the girl with legs spread apart on one side, and then they use these pulleys to sort of just ram her against this huge shaft, but just ripping her apart. And the whole shaft's just covered in blood and bits. And the freak who keeps sniffing his finger, the other scientist, picks a bit up of the blood, doesn't he? And it's all disgusting stuff.
He's just playing with it.
And he puts it in his face and stuff, and you're like, oh, fuck off.
These aren't scientists. They've lost it. Unless they were, that when they first got there, they were pretty scientific, and that's kind of what got them their reputation. But then they kind of lost it because they were there so long that they
I think he believes he's a god. I think he's lost it, and now he believes he's a god.
So there's the madness. This is basically Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Who's
without snails coming down.
There's a bug in my head. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty much that. So they're right there under the illusion of that they are gods, or at least the one that's observing. Maybe
he's still probably trying to do his job and not interfering.
Yeah. So maybe he's watching Kurtz. He's following his scientist buddy, who is now Kurtz, lost in the jungle.
Yeah. And
living with all the natives.
He's really good at saxophone.
He's very good at saxophone. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the only thing that he's kind of kept with him, or maybe that's
But even that's disgusting. The way he has to like spit and then puts his mouth over the
There's a lot of
mouthpiece.
spitting. There was a lot of spitting in this movie.
Yeah, and the out through the nose thing, where I hate.
Yeah, things like that. I mean, whenever I see anybody doing it on the street, spitting, I always could be that close to having an altercation with them. I love that.
Altercation.
Altercation.
Get you over there! Stop doing that! Oh shit, he's coming at me!
He's coming over to have an altercation.
Oh, I've got water.
I got you some water. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
I think it's water.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's stuff happening because the camera is actually an observer. The camera is a character in the film. Stuff happens in front of the camera pretty much all the time.
And that's one of the things I really
Interfering,
loved.
yeah, which I liked as well.
Yeah, people looking into the camera and almost trying to brag off in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And you can see why it must have been so hard to stage, because there's massive long takes where so much happens in one take without a cut.
That we know of. I mean, yeah.
Well, there could be cuts in there.
There can be cuts in there, yeah.
I was looking for them. Like with Birdman, you can tell when they're there, when something goes slightly black for a second and then it's not.
Yeah, they were a little bit more obvious.
Yeah, but I think with this, I think there was at least 3 to 4 minutes with so much going on, with the camera just moving around, following this guy. And people coming out of here and then looking at the camera, and then like a boy jumping up in front of the camera and then disappears, and then this woman comes in and this fat woman just lifts her skirt up so you can see her ass, starts wiggling at the camera, and you walk past the fat woman. And
naked guys walking by.
Naked guy for no reason. No
just
clothes
walking
on,
by.
penis hanging out. There it is.
Which I kind of think is, well, why would anybody do that anyway in this time? They're asking for they're asking for trouble.
Yeah, but
it's very
it didn't
unusual.
seem to matter to everyone around.
Nothing matters
just
like that. Yeah,
naked man, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
The poor girl in the bed, where they're in that room where the fat woman's in, and then you see the bed covers moving. We think there's someone under there, but there's like cats everywhere or dogs. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then he's talking to someone about nothing in particular, and just moves the covers, and there's a naked woman under there, and he just grabs her ass.
Yeah, grabs her, and then she gets off and walks away.
She just walks away and you never see her again. It's frustrating.
It is,
but fascinating.
But you know what? Yeah, and the movie, what this film has done is that it is pulling at your emotions. It's playing with your mind. And it's provoking you. It's a very provocative film, and it's provoking you, and that's the one reason why a lot of people kind of don't want to watch it, because they don't like to go through that when we're watching a movie. They want to be spoon-fed with everything and go, what's going to happen there? I was never excited about the next scene in this movie. I was always kind of ready for it. Like, what is it? Okay, what we're going to go? We're going outside again. Okay, now we're going inside. What's this place going to be like? What's going to happen in this room?
Yeah.
It was more of a you're with the scientist, basically. You are going with the scientist.
Yeah.
And which is, I think, is a very clever way of putting the audience into the movie, pushing them in.
And there's some incredible things in it.
Yeah.
And like the image of like the children in all the mud and shit and just playing with dead bodies and all the organs just falling out. You see, like,
someone just
pulled up.
There was a guy who was dead and someone just grabbed something off him.
Yeah,
and then just started playing with it.
Yeah, and all his intestines start coming out, and then a kid just picks up the intestines and walks off with them around his neck. It's like, I'm glad it's in black and white.
It's in black and white. So there we go. I mean,
but if there's one image out of it,
yeah,
what have you took from it? If anything.
Dangling for quite a while, there was this long shot, and it was a beautiful big vista of a shot, because you've got this guy who's dangling in white at the foreground of the picture, and somebody's throwing a whole bag of stuff to somebody in the background, and they walk all the way down, and they're just characters having a conversation off the screen. So what I get is, it's just a sense of place. It's like the camera's just been put down and they're having a conversation, and it's just whatever happens is happening. There's no reason for anything, and that shot itself kind of made me think this is what this film is about.
Yeah, it's
about things that aren't necessarily on the screen, but it's also about everything that you're watching in the screen as well. It's not your usual movie.
It's not, and like I say, I got all the way through it. Is the film is about observing, and by observing, you influence what happens to a society by just watching it,
and that's it.
But one scene from me that I thought was it was tragic and awful, but sort of beautiful, was you know, when there's all those, I assume, slaves, because there doesn't seem to be anyone controlling them, but they're holding up that huge wooden structure. They've all got a noose around their neck.
Yes.
And you see them come from the distance and walk straight past and out back to the distance, and then they do come from the left and go to the right, and it just films the entire thing, and it's just an extraordinary visual piece of cinema, you know. Yeah, and like I said to you, I thought it's an important film.
Yeah,
it's frustrating. It's amazing to watch. I will never watch it again. I don't need to ever see that film again.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I kind of went on to. I mean, is unseen brutality leading to sniffing of dog's butt. Did you remember seeing that bit as well?
Yeah,
that's what I remember. I remember these things, but like I say, I mean, it's the shots are, every shot is set up perfectly. I mean, how do you know when you're going to turn, that something is actually going to happen in front of you?
And that's what
you try that with any other director, they wouldn't.
When he's walking through a crowd of people, and some people are looking at the camera, some people bump into the camera, some people do that.
They're all
and then
meant
other people,
to be there.
Yeah, every part of that was
meant to be
done.
there.
It was staged. That's
it's
amazing.
It's like a Robert Altman film. I mean, The Player is a Robert Altman film, which is kind of like a light version of this.
Yeah,
where the camera does move for a long time, and it does go and it does observe. It's an observing camera throughout that film as well. Yeah. Even though we're constantly with the main characters in that film, and there is a plot and there's story and there's things that we recognise as dialogue. Yeah. But it's the way the camera moves, and you don't know how they set it all up, how the consistency with the lighting and everything. And maybe the reason why it is a very muted, shallow colour palette, that it doesn't go into too much depth unless it's actually inside, is because of the amount of control that they needed to have those big long shots. They couldn't have too many extremes of lighting because it would have been impossible to shoot.
Yeah.
That when you go inside, you've got more control. You've got more control over the lighting, but when you've got too much of a wide area and you're travelling from here to there, you don't want to have too many lighting setups that you have to dismantle and set up quickly before you actually lose the flow.
Because like that scene I was just talking about, maybe a numpteen times one of them fell over or something that happened, and it's like, right, we can't do it again, we'll have to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, because it took so long to set it up. And
same time of day. You've got to get the same time of day.
And maybe that's why it took 6 years.
It's taken 6 years because they had to have everything that's still on the same level, and it's that intricate. I mean, we don't know how many takes it took to do this every time, but maybe it just really, really was that punishing of a shoot. But everybody stayed with it. I didn't see any actors being replaced halfway through.
That's a good director, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a director staying
faithful,
positive and excited about it.
They must have had fun. No way would you be on that film for 6 years without really losing your mind, unless you had fun doing it.
Yeah. The Russians have fun.
Yes, they do.
Good.
And they also build monuments for America that America doesn't get told about, because they want to still keep up that fear gate of Russians are still dark, malevolent people with an agenda. You heard about the teardrop, didn't you?
No.
The teardrop monument. I'm just sidestep, but this is something.
As long as we're
really,
talking about Johnny Vegas,
this is something really positive about. They built basically after the 2001. The two towers.
Yeah.
Putin and the people of Russia funded all together as a part of a pot to build and send over a huge monument in the form of two towers and a crack with a teardrop in the middle. They sent it over to America as a gift to the American people, in consolidation and in empathy with what was lost. Of course, they lost 26 Russians in the World Trade Center as well. They sent it over as a gift, and they erected it in a couple of small islands south of the Statue of Liberty, or somewhere that's close by at least, but not much of a population there. They put it up. They erected it up there. Not one media, not one single part of the media reported on it. For years, it was regarded as only a local attraction, that only the locals knew that it existed, and nobody talked about it.
Wow.
Because they wanted to that the media would never want to actually admit that Putin had actually done something nice for the people, the American people, and it's all part of this whole, all the social networks, there it is, and I kind of verified it. I thought, I'm going to Snopes on this one. This is ridiculous. That people are so amazed by it and feel such an empathy now with Russia that it's kind of, the media is really going to struggle to hide these kind of things in the future, I think, and it's a bit of a breakthrough because the American people needed this. So basically, the teardrop is.
I didn't know about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so the teardrop is out there for the American people as a gift from Russia. Never, as much as the Statue of Liberty was a gift from Paris.
Yeah.
But it's just never been talked about, or that's it. It's been a hidden gift. And I wonder how Russia actually felt about that. Why they hadn't had a massive outpour of thank you or love from America.
You probably would have had thanks, but not from the general populace.
It would have been a big private ceremony of thanks on private networks. But it's just unusual because I think that with Russia, I mean they make beautiful films. They have a beautiful culture. There are Russians who are. I mean, do you watch the Crazy Russians on YouTube?
No.
They come up with all these amazing ways to make life easier by putting rubber bands in and things and showing you how to open a tin without a can opener, and they're just really savvy, really extraordinary. Two Russian guys who have life hacks for everything, and they involve their mother into it, and they're hilarious. They're great, but people don't realise that Russia is an accessible place with accessible people, and it's not about 1967 anymore. It's not about the nuclear Cold War anymore. It's like Vietnam is not about Vietnamese anymore trying to blow you up whilst growing rice. It's not about that anymore.
That's why The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was such a progressive show.
Yeah.
Because it was created by Ian Fleming, who is partly created by him.
And I doubt none of that will be in the new film, by the way.
I don't think it's based in the Cold War, but obviously it was made in the 60s, and you had someone from Britain, was it America?
Yeah.
Napoleon Solo, and then you had Ilya Kuryakin, who was from Russia, and they worked together.
Yeah,
in a series in the 60s, very progressive.
Yeah, and the same goes for Star Trek, also progressive, because that was done because Russia was complaining. So we've got to put a Russian in there to keep them happy.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't got a black woman in there. Oh, we need to do that. So that was more, to me, I kind of get the feeling that Star Trek was probably less progressive because they had to do it.
Yeah, well, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. did it because they felt it was
right.
Yeah. Mum, this is a film you can't eat popcorn to.
No, you can't.
But that's what I mean. Like, you got a film like this, which is existential and it's not narrative.
Is there anything in America? Well, I mean, in Russia, I mean, there are some beautiful films that have won Academy Awards for Best Foreign Language Film. Burnt by the Sun is a beautiful film. I love that film, and fell in love with that one that came out. And I would love for you to watch it because it's a strong film, beautiful. But yeah, there's nothing that comes out really that kind of blows American people away. But then I wonder, has America made a film anything like this? Has Hollywood ever made a film that's been like this?
They wouldn't make a film that's like this.
But is there anything close to it? Is there anything that is... There isn't, is there?
No. You see, the thing was, like, with this film, if it made any kind of money in America,
imagine that.
They'll immediately remake it.
Oh my god!
You know what I mean?
Forget superheroes. Forget superheroes. We want omnipotent camera observing of scientists.
But then it wouldn't be
in
like
all these
that.
Different. It wouldn't. Yeah, it would be a little bit more dynamic.
It's hard to be a god. Subtitle. Killers, commies, or whatever it might be. Michael Bay will be the fucking
gods with machine guns.
Yeah,
and they walking around shooting. Everybody who smiles at the camera gets shot with a machine gun.
It'd be like a first-person shooter film, wouldn't it? Get away from her, you bitch!
Hard to be a god is a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
It really is, without the shooting. It's a first-person observer movie. without science fiction.
It's like that Alien game where people just walked around because they couldn't figure out how to open doors and stuff.
Alien Isolation.
Alien
Isolation, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what this is. It's a first-person shooter film
that you just do
without shooting.
So this is what this film is, right?
Okay.
I've got it. This is what this film is. It's you watching your friend play a first-person shooter, and you can't have any influence on what he's doing. You have to just watch him for 3 hours playing a game where he just walks around.
Wow. You just knocked on the door of my brain, and the light's on and people are in. It's great. That's it. We've just decoded it. The film. That's it. Well done, my brother. Oh,
cool.
So
am I allowed to eat food now?
I think so. Oh yeah, dancing chicken feet in the camera lens. I have to love it.
Yeah.
Hard to tell what's really going on. My comments for this movie towards the end were, the film is technically...
It was like, whoa.
What the hell? I mean, I said technically I can understand why it took so long to make. That's true. We've talked about that. Could the film be any shorter? Why do I want it to be over?
I totally got that. I couldn't... I was never bored, but I couldn't wait for it to finish.
It was hard work.
Yeah, at the end when he was in the pool,
yeah.
After all the fighting and the guts and all that shit. Because actually that's when you see the kid who's playing in all the dirt and grime, and he starts picking up heads and stuff, and he runs off with some intestines. Camera panning all the way through.
Picked up the head.
And the camera pans through, and eventually you get to the guy. Yeah, he's just in the pool. The one who is this deity, so called. And he's just in his pool, and then he gets up, he's got no pants on, he walks around, he sniffs something.
That was so religious.
Spits.
That was such a religious moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's as if, like, that guy walks off, and then the other guy just gets on that virgin and crouches down in all the dirt. He's sort of like one of his disciples, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, thank God the film's going to end. And it still didn't.
It didn't end, no.
Yeah, and then it went on a little bit where they all walk off, and then you have the weird scene with the kid and the farmer. But it's just... Yeah, when it ended, I was like, oh.
It was, yeah. I was relieved that I didn't have to watch somebody playing this game anymore.
Yeah.
And it's Medal of Honor without the interesting cutscenes.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, that's it.
Well, there you go.
But there were some interesting humorous comparisons that I made.
Oh, yes.
I've started to do untrue connections, which because there's one film that we kind of related to, Hard to Be a God, and that one thing that probably kept us watching it. We kept on thinking about this in terms of being a comedy.
Yeah, Monty Python, The Holy Grail, which incidentally is my favourite Monty Python film.
Yeah, I mean that and Life of Brian. I can't really tell which one's my favourite between the two.
They are absolute masterpieces.
Yeah, Brian flies in a rocket with an alien. I love it.
Yeah,
Brian is my hero. I worship him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. He's in Judea and he's called Brian Cohen. It's like a Welsh name. It's so genius. I honestly think we need to dedicate a podcast to maybe those two films and try and iron out which one's the best. So let's not talk about Holy Grail too much. No.
Well, we maybe this can just be it. This comparison between the two.
But if you think about it, Holy Grail has the medieval and the modern.
It does.
Because, you know, you've got it's set in medieval times, and then you have a historian talking about it.
Yeah.
And then...
There's your observer. There's your science observer.
It's essentially the same film, and then he chops his fucking head off.
The police go, all right, unique.
Well, that's it. It's like, how do we end this film? And the police arrest everyone. It's amazing.
That's great. Perfect.
Oh, it's so meta.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's too soon to unveil the Holy Grail right now.
Well, wouldn't that be an interesting podcast? We're on the podcast we're not right now, but it's to try and iron out which is best between Holy Grail and Life of Brian.
Okay,
you can be in Life of Brian corner, I'll be Holy Grail corner.
That sounds
like
really good. Okay, that sounds great. We can be it'll be a what's that match? Death match.
Yeah, death match.
Celebrity death match from two people who aren't really celebrities
and don't really want to fight. A pacifist death match.
A pacifist death match to the death.
Hey, you stop that! Sorry, did I offend you? I really didn't mean to offend you. You okay?
That's how it was in school for me. I mean, I got forced with the other person in the school who never had a fight because they said one day, so you've never been in a fight. Hey, he hasn't ever been in a fight. Right, you two are going to fight. And they literally just pushed us together. And we're kind of like just bumping each other. So I don't want to hit you. And just hit me. Just do it once. Just hit me once. Just don't in the face.
And then you do that, like...
We just didn't. We just kind of just pushed each other. Is that enough? Can we go now?
Lovely.
Oh, it's funny, but fighting is just not my thing.
Right. Okay then.
So if I were to say, would you like to be set up or would you like to be punchline?
I'll be set up.
Okay, so you're going to read the blue.
Yeah.
And then
we're doing all of them.
We'll just go line by line.
Okay.
Because there's 10. So it's basically, it's frame by frame presents untrue connections from 1 to 10.
Okay. In Monty Python's Holy Grail, additional Knights Who Say Ni scene, they intended to call themselves the Knights of Nicky Nicky.
Yes, that's another scene that they didn't have. Knights of Nicky Nicky. So in Hard to Be a God, additional peasant who plays with chicken legs in front of camera scene involved a cut scene that was where peasants who complete a Rubik's Cube in less than 100 moves.
Right, okay.
If that made sense.
Filming began for Hard to Be a God in 2000 and finished in 2006. Since then, the director worked mostly on the sound. Unfortunately, he died in February 2013 before finishing the film.
That's not funny, but this might be. The cast and crew of Monty Python Holy Grail had no idea that this movie was being made. This was considered downtime.
Right, okay. For the Japanese release of Hard to Be a God translated as Gods of Twilight.
For the Japanese release of Monty Python's The Holy Grail is translated as Holy Sake Cup. For the North Korean release, however, this film was called A Day in the Life of the Bee Gees.
In Hard to Be a God, the Arkanar city set was constructed in the vicinity of Topnik Castle, Czech Republic. Pavilion scenes were filmed in Moscow.
In Monty Python's The Holy Grail, the killer rabbit was real. It was something that Michael Palin won in the pavilion in Moscow.
Hard to Be a God is a very straight vision of what the Middle Ages would look like if it never reached the Renaissance era. Perpetual filth.
In Monty Python's The Holy Grail is a very silly film. It's perpetual silliness. So some of these aren't funny. That's fine. It's a top 10 list like David Letterman's top 10.
Yeah. On the set of Monty Python's Holy Grail, the catering refused to give the cast and crew any spam out of the tin during lunch.
On the set of Hard to Be a God, they ate spam like it was caviar, which is exactly what spam really is, mixed in with horse.
Right. Originally, Hard to Be a God is a 1964 sci-fi novel by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, set in the Noon universe.
Original Monty Python's The Holy Grail is a book based on the sex talk transcripts from Michael Palin's early diaries. The Python team, in order to protect their good friend from embarrassment, removed the jolly Rogering and replaced it with French soldiers instead. Michael Palin never knew the difference, which made the Python team very uncomfortable.
In Monty Python's Holy Grail, originally the knight characters were going to ride real horses, but after it became clear that the film's small budget precluded real horses, the Python decided that the characters would mime horse riding while their porters trotted behind them banging coconut shells together.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
However, in Hard to Be a God, originally there were scenes where wild characters were riding horses, but they were so hungry that they ate the horses instead.
In Monty Python's Holy Grail, the non-killer rabbit was actually not white and was painted without permission by the owner, which may have resulted in an altercation. Another altercation.
In Hard to Be a God, rabbits may or may not have been used during production. There's no way of telling. There could have been an elephant and a giraffe in the scene, and you wouldn't have been able to tell that they were there.
Right. Monty Python's Holy Grail is a very long episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus with coconuts.
Hard to Be a God is a 3-hour film filled with flying circus of filth and poo.
There
we go. That's our 10. And you can tell I ran out of other funny things to say by the end.
But it is funny to say the Holy Grail, and it's essentially the same film, even though the Holy Grail's got more narrative.
Yeah, there's a journey, and there's an entourage.
Yeah,
people that come and go.
And there is the future element in there. And
yes, yeah, there is the storytelling and the science. There's a science behind the observing of it all. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. And every so often they find women, because in the film it's predominantly men.
Yeah.
And then every so often there are women, and they're kind of like a breath of fresh air, kind of. In How to Be a God, it's not so much a breath of fresh air, but in that one, when they go to Castle Anthrax, the place is just full of women.
Yeah.
And that made me happy.
Yes. Women are good.
And then he gets rescued, and then he's pissed off because he wanted to stay here longer. So it's a golden film, and we will talk about the Holy Grail at another time.
Yeah.
So
that was it. It's hard to be a god. It's hard to watch the film. It's hard to be a god.
It is.
It's the best watching your friend play a really boring computer game film out there.
That's very well made.
That's very, very well made.
So there you go.
So check it out.
Take me to the beaver.
Take me to the beaver. Take me to the beaver.
Oh yeah.
Wash me in the water. Oh, anyway.
Done.